Welcome to Freema Audiobooks, a place created for those who refuse to let setbacks define their story and who believe that resilience, persistence, and inner determination can carry them further than talent or luck ever could. If you have ever faced discouragement, failure, rejection, or exhaustion and wondered whether continuing is worth the effort, this audiobook was created for you because the decision to never give up is not a dramatic moment of emotion, but a disciplined commitment built through mental strength, grit, and steady motivation. Today's audiobook is titled Never Give Up: Mental Strength, Grit, and Motivation, and it is a powerful exploration of how resilience is developed, how grit sustains effort through difficulty, and how motivation can be protected and renewed even when progress feels slow or uncertain. This audiobook will guide you through the psychology of perseverance, the habits that strengthen endurance, and the mindset that transforms obstacles into stepping stones rather than stopping points. Before we begin, we invite you to subscribe to Freema Audiobooks like this audiobook, share it with someone who needs encouragement to keep going, and leave a comment telling us where you are listening from, because your support helps this channel continue creating audiobooks that inspire strength, clarity, and unwavering determination. Before we begin this journey into resilience and determination, it is important to understand that this audiobook is structured into 8 powerful chapters, each one carefully designed to strengthen your mental endurance, deepen your grit, and help you build the kind of motivation that survives obstacles rather than collapsing under pressure. Every chapter builds upon the previous one, guiding you step by step from understanding the psychology of perseverance to living with unshakable commitment. Because the ability to never give up is not a single decision, but a cultivated mindset reinforced over time. Chapter 1: The Psychology of Persistence, Understanding Why Most People Quit and How to Keep Going. In this chapter we explore the psychology behind persistence, why many people quit when faced with discomfort or delay, how mental patterns influence endurance, and how understanding these mechanisms strengthens your ability to remain committed even when progress feels slow or uncertain. Persistence begins with awareness, because without understanding why quitting feels tempting during moments of discomfort, frustration, or doubt, it becomes easy to mistake emotional fatigue for genuine limitation and abandon goals prematurely. Many individuals quit not because they lack ability, but because they misinterpret temporary struggle as permanent failure, allowing short-term emotions to dictate long-term decisions. Emotional intensity narrows perspective. Narrow perspective exaggerates difficulty. Exaggerated difficulty weakens confidence. Weakened confidence reduces effort. Reduced effort slows progress. Slowed progress reinforces doubt. Doubt strengthens the urge to quit. This psychological cycle repeats silently until it is interrupted by awareness and deliberate reflection. The mind naturally seeks comfort and avoids pain, which means that perseverance requires conscious resistance to impulses that prioritize immediate relief over long-term growth. When discomfort appears, the brain signals retreat. Retreat feels safe. Safety appears rational, yet rationalization often disguises fear. Understanding this dynamic restores control. Control allows pause. Pause creates reflection. Reflection supports recommitment. Recommitment strengthens endurance. Another important factor in quitting is unrealistic expectation, because many people assume progress should be linear and rapid, and when results fail to match expectation, discouragement replaces determination. Unrealistic timelines breed frustration. Frustration drains energy. Drained energy weakens focus. Wisdom recalibrates expectation. Calibrated expectation restores patience. Patience sustains effort. To sustained effort compounds growth. Growth eventually validates persistence. Self-doubt also plays a central role in surrender, because internal criticism magnifies mistakes and overlooks progress, creating an imbalanced perception of capability. Negative self-talk distorts reality. Distorted reality weakens belief. Weakened belief undermines commitment. Learning to observe self-doubt without surrendering to it strengthens resilience. Resilience protects motivation. Motivation fuels action. Action rebuilds confidence. Fear of failure often disguises itself as practicality, convincing individuals that quitting is logical rather than emotional. Yet deeper reflection frequently reveals avoidance rather than rational strategy. Avoidance delays growth. Growth requires discomfort. Discomfort builds strength. Strength increases capability. Capability reinforces belief. Belief sustains persistence. Another reason people quit is isolation, because without encouragement or shared perspective, challenges feel heavier and more personal than they truly are. Connection reduces isolation. Reduced isolation strengthens morale. Strong morale sustains endurance. Endurance protects momentum. Momentum reinforces progress. Progress restores confidence. Understanding the temporary nature of emotional intensity also strengthens persistence, because feelings of discouragement often fade if action continues rather than stops. Continued action disrupts stagnation. Disrupted stagnation restores energy. Restored energy supports focus. Focus strengthens results. Results reinforce belief. Belief deepens commitment. Ultimately, persistence is less about extraordinary strength and more about managing perception, expectation, and emotional response wisely, ensuring that temporary discomfort does not overshadow long-term purpose. This chapter establishes that the decision to never give up begins in the mind, where awareness, patience, and reframed thinking protect commitment from emotional fluctuation and lay the foundation for unshakable mental strength. Now that we understand why most people quit and how mental patterns influence the decision to persist or withdraw, the next step is learning how to deliberately strengthen the mind so that endurance becomes a trained capacity rather than a rare trait. In this chapter, we explore how mental strength is developed through disciplined thinking, emotional regulation, and consistent exposure to challenge, allowing you to continue moving forward even when circumstances feel heavy. Chapter 2. Building mental strength, training your mind for endurance. In this chapter, we explore how mental strength is cultivated intentionally, why endurance grows through repeated exposure to difficulty, and how disciplined thinking patterns create resilience that supports grit, confidence, and long-term motivation. Mental strength is not an inborn quality reserved for a select few, but a skill developed through consistent practice, because the mind adapts to challenge in the same way the body adapts to physical training. When stress is applied gradually and recovery is respected. When difficulty is avoided, tolerance remains low. Low tolerance magnifies discomfort. Magnified discomfort weakens perseverance. Exposure builds familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. Reduced fear strengthens calm. Calm supports clarity. Clarity improves response. Response reinforces resilience. Over time, the mind becomes stronger because it has been trained to endure rather than retreat. Thought patterns shape endurance more powerfully than circumstance because internal dialogue influences perception, and perception determines whether obstacles appear insurmountable or manageable. Negative internal narratives exaggerate difficulty. Exaggeration breeds hopelessness. Hopelessness reduces effort. Constructive thinking reframes struggle as temporary and instructive. Reframing restores perspective. Perspective protects confidence. Confidence sustains action. Action rebuilds momentum. Momentum fuels motivation. Emotional regulation is a cornerstone of mental strength because intense feelings often distort reasoning and amplify challenges beyond proportion, making calm awareness essential for balanced judgment during adversity. Unregulated emotion clouds clarity. Clouded clarity weakens decision-making. Weakened decisions increase regret. Regret erodes confidence. Training awareness creates pause. Pause restores balance. Balance supports steady action. Steady action reinforces endurance. Consistency in small acts of discipline strengthens mental stamina because repeated follow-through on manageable commitments builds self-trust and reinforces the belief that you can handle more than discomfort suggests. Small victories accumulate. Accumulation builds credibility. Credibility strengthens belief. Belief stabilizes effort. Effort deepens grit. Grit strengthens resilience. Another critical element of mental training is embracing discomfort intentionally, because voluntary exposure to challenge reduces fear of the unknown and builds tolerance for uncertainty and difficulty. Avoidance strengthens anxiety. Confrontation reduces anxiety. Reduced anxiety increases confidence. Confidence supports perseverance. Perseverance compounds growth. Growth validates effort. Recovery also plays an essential role in mental endurance because sustainable strength requires rest and reflection to prevent burnout that can undermine motivation and clarity. Rest restores energy. Restored energy improves focus. Improved focus strengthens action. Action supports momentum. Momentum reinforces determination. Mental strength thrives in balance. Self-compassion enhances resilience because harsh self-criticism during setbacks drains emotional energy and weakens persistence, whereas balanced correction preserves motivation and encourages continued effort. Balanced reflection supports learning. Learning strengthens competence. Competence builds confidence. Confidence stabilizes grit. Grit protects commitment. Ultimately, building mental strength transforms challenge from an enemy into a training ground, ensuring that obstacles refine endurance rather than diminish resolve. This chapter reinforces that perseverance is not a matter of personality alone, but of disciplined mental training, repeated exposure to difficulty, and steady emotional regulation that strengthens the capacity to continue even when progress feels slow or uncertain. As mental strength develops through disciplined thinking and repeated exposure to challenge, the next layer of perseverance reveals itself through grit, which is the quiet force that sustains effort not for days or weeks, but for years when necessary. In this chapter, we explore how grit differs from temporary motivation, how long-term commitment is maintained through difficulty, and why sustained effort often matters more than raw talent. Chapter 3. The Power of Grit, Sustaining Effort Through Long-Term Challenge. In this chapter, we explore what grit truly means, how it enables individuals to remain committed to long-term goals despite setbacks and slow progress, and why sustained effort is often the defining factor between unrealized potential and meaningful achievement. Grit is the combination of passion and perseverance directed toward a long-term objective. Grit remains steady even when excitement diminishes and progress becomes less visible. Many people begin with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm generates energy. Energy produces initial action. Yet when novelty fades, energy declines. Declining energy exposes weak commitment. Weak commitment invites distraction. Grit counters distraction by anchoring effort to purpose rather than mood. Purpose sustains direction. Direction protects persistence. Long-term challenges test grit because results rarely appear immediately, and without visible evidence of progress, doubt can quietly replace determination unless vision remains strong. Invisible progress feels discouraging. Discouragement weakens morale. Weak morale reduces effort. Grit maintains action despite uncertainty. Continued action compounds improvement. Improvement eventually becomes visible. Visible progress restores confidence. Confidence reinforces commitment. Commitment strengthens grit further. Consistency is the practical expression of grit because sustained small actions accumulate into meaningful advancement even when dramatic breakthroughs are absent. Small daily effort appears insignificant in isolation, yet repeated effort compounds. Compounded effort builds skill. Skill increases competence. Competence strengthens confidence. Confidence stabilizes endurance. Grit thrives in repetition rather than intensity. Another dimension of grit is resilience in the face of criticism or rejection. Because long-term goals often attract skepticism that can erode motivation if internal belief is weak. External doubt amplifies internal insecurity. Insecurity weakens commitment. Strong purpose neutralizes doubt. Neutralized doubt preserves clarity. Clarity supports focus. Focus sustains progress. Progress validates perseverance. Grit also requires adaptability, because rigid persistence without adjustment can lead to stagnation rather than growth, making flexibility an essential companion to determination. Adaptation refines strategy. Refined strategy improves efficiency. Efficiency accelerates progress. Progress reinforces belief. Belief strengthens long-term effort. Grit balances endurance with learning. Patience strengthens grit because meaningful achievement often unfolds gradually, and unrealistic timelines create frustration that weakens commitment prematurely. Realistic expectations stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion supports consistency. Consistency compounds results. Results deepen satisfaction. Satisfaction renews dedication. Grit matures through time. Self-discipline reinforces grit because repeated follow-through builds identity around perseverance, making persistence a defining trait rather than a temporary behavior. Identity shapes action. Action reinforces identity. Reinforced identity strengthens belief. Belief stabilizes motivation. Grit becomes part of who you are rather than what you attempt occasionally. Ultimately, grit transforms long-term aspiration into sustained reality, ensuring that temporary setbacks, slow progress, or external doubt do not extinguish the internal commitment required for meaningful success. This chapter reinforces that while talent may create opportunity, it is grit that sustains effort through years of growth, turning potential into lasting achievement through unwavering perseverance. As grit strengthens your ability to remain committed over the long term, the next inevitable challenge arises in the form of failure, because persistence is tested most severely when effort does not produce the expected result. In this chapter, we explore how failure can either weaken resolve or become powerful fuel for growth, depending on how it is interpreted and integrated into your journey. Chapter 4. Overcoming failure, turning setbacks into fuel. In this chapter, we explore how failure shapes mental strength, why setbacks often contain hidden instruction, and how reframing disappointment as feedback rather than defeat transforms adversity into momentum for renewed determination. Failure is often misunderstood as a final verdict rather than a temporary outcome, and this misinterpretation can prematurely end journeys that were only beginning to build momentum. When failure is personalized, confidence declines. Declining confidence reduces effort. Reduced effort limits recovery. Limited recovery reinforces defeat. Yet, when failure is analyzed objectively, it reveals gaps in strategy rather than flaws in identity. Objective reflection restores clarity. Clarity supports adjustment. Adjustment accelerates growth. Growth rebuilds confidence. Confidence strengthens persistence. The emotional sting of failure is real, and ignoring it does not create resilience. But understanding that discomfort is part of progress reduces the temptation to withdraw permanently. Pain signals importance. Importance highlights growth opportunity. Growth opportunity invites correction. Correction improves capability. Capability strengthens belief. Belief fuels renewed effort. Effort rebuilds momentum. Momentum restores hope. Reframing failure as feedback transforms perspective because, instead of asking why you are inadequate, you begin asking what can be improved, which shifts attention from self-criticism to constructive development. Constructive focus builds competence. Competence strengthens resilience. Resilience sustains commitment. Commitment reinforces grit. Grit protects long-term goals. Another essential lesson within failure is humility, because recognizing limitations opens the door to learning and refinement that pride might otherwise resist. Humility invites growth. Growth strengthens skill. Skill improves results. Improved results restore confidence. Confidence stabilizes perseverance. Perseverance strengthens mental endurance. Repeated exposure to failure can actually build tolerance for disappointment, reducing fear of risk and encouraging bold action that timid individuals avoid entirely. Reduced fear increases courage. Courage supports innovation. Innovation accelerates learning. Learning strengthens capability. Capability reinforces belief. Personal growth becomes cumulative rather than fragile. Support systems also play a role in overcoming failure, because shared perspective can prevent emotional isolation from amplifying self-doubt unnecessarily. Encouragement stabilizes morale. Stable morale preserves effort. Effort maintains progress. Progress rebuilds belief. Belief strengthens resilience. Community supports endurance. Failure also clarifies priorities because setbacks often reveal whether goals are deeply meaningful or merely temporary ambitions. Allowing re-evaluation without surrendering commitment to growth itself. Meaning strengthens resolve. Resolve stabilizes discipline. Discipline sustains progress. Progress compounds achievement. Failure refines direction. Ultimately, overcoming failure transforms adversity into instruction and disappointment into fuel, ensuring that setbacks strengthen rather than weaken your determination to continue. This chapter reinforces that failure is not the opposite of success, but part of its construction, because those who never give up are not those who never fail, but those who learn, adjust, and persist with renewed clarity and strength. As failure is reframed as instruction rather than defeat, another challenge emerges in the form of emotional fatigue, because even the most determined individuals experience moments when motivation weakens and energy feels depleted. In this chapter, we explore how to reignite drive during difficult periods and how to protect commitment when inspiration fades but the goal still matters deeply. Chapter 5, Motivation in Difficult Times, Reigniting Drive When Energy Fades. In this chapter, we explore how motivation fluctuates during prolonged effort, why low energy periods are natural rather than signs of weakness, and how disciplined strategies can restore momentum when progress feels slow or discouraging. Motivation is often imagined as a constant flame, yet in reality it rises and falls in response to stress, progress, environment, and emotional state, making it essential to understand that temporary decline does not signal permanent loss of drive. When energy dips, doubt often increases. Increased doubt weakens effort. Reduced effort slows progress. Slowed progress intensifies discouragement. This cycle can become self-reinforcing unless consciously interrupted. Awareness disrupts the pattern. Disruption restores clarity. Clarity enables strategic renewal. Renewal strengthens perseverance. One effective way to reignite motivation is reconnecting with purpose, because revisiting the deeper reasons behind a goal reminds the mind why continued effort is worthwhile despite temporary fatigue. Purpose restores meaning. Meaning fuels commitment. Commitment stabilizes discipline. Discipline sustains progress. Progress gradually rebuilds enthusiasm. Motivation returns through alignment rather than force. Breaking large objectives into smaller, manageable steps also restores drive because visible short-term progress provides evidence of movement even when long-term results remain distant. Small wins build confidence. Confidence renews hope. Hope strengthens effort. Effort accelerates progress. Progress reinforces belief. Belief stabilizes motivation. Rest and recovery must also be respected because exhaustion often disguises itself as lack of motivation, and without physical and mental renewal, persistence becomes unsustainable. Rest restores energy. Restored energy improves focus. Focus strengthens action. Action rebuilds rhythm. Rhythm stabilizes drive. Sustainable effort requires balance. Another powerful method of renewal is changing perspective through reflection, because examining how far you've already come often reveals progress overlooked during intense focus on what remains unfinished. Recognizing progress builds gratitude. Gratitude strengthens morale. Strong morale protects commitment. Commitment sustains grit. Grit rebuilds momentum. Community and accountability can reignite motivation because shared goals and encouragement counter isolation that magnifies discouragement unnecessarily. Support stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion preserves clarity. Clarity supports continued effort. Effort maintains growth. Growth strengthens belief. Visualizing long-term success also strengthens motivation because imagining the fulfillment that persistence will eventually create reinforces emotional connection to the goal. Emotional connection deepens commitment. Commitment fuels action. Action rebuilds peace. Progress renews energy. Motivation becomes purposeful rather than reactive. Ultimately, motivation in difficult times is restored not through dramatic inspiration, but through strategic recalibration. disciplined action, and renewed alignment with purpose, ensuring that temporary fatigue does not permanently derail meaningful ambition. This chapter reinforces that perseverance requires flexibility, balance, and reflection, because those who never give up understand that motivation can be rebuilt even when it momentarily fades. As motivation fluctuates and is intentionally rebuilt during difficult periods, the deeper foundation of perseverance reveals itself through discipline. Because lasting success depends less on how you feel and more on what you choose to do despite fluctuating emotion. In this chapter, we explore how acting consistently even when you do not feel inspired strengthens mental toughness and reinforces the identity of someone who refuses to quit. Chapter 6. Discipline over emotion. Acting even when you don't feel like it. In this chapter we explore why discipline is more reliable than emotion, how consistent action strengthens mental endurance, and why the ability to act without waiting for motivation is one of the most powerful expressions of grit and personal strength. Emotion is powerful but unstable, and when decisions are guided solely by feeling, progress, it becomes inconsistent and vulnerable to daily fluctuation in mood, energy, and external circumstance. When you feel inspired, action is easy. When you feel tired, resistance grows. Resistance encourages delay. Delay slows progress. Slowed progress increases frustration. Frustration weakens motivation. Discipline interrupts this emotional cycle. Discipline prioritizes commitment over comfort. Commitment sustains action. Action builds momentum. Acting without waiting to feel ready strengthens identity because each time you follow through despite reluctance, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of honoring your goals regardless of temporary discomfort. Follow-through builds credibility. Credibility strengthens self-trust. Self-trust stabilizes confidence. Confidence fuels persistence. Persistence compounds progress. Progress reinforces belief. Belief deepens resilience. One of the most important lessons in discipline is understanding that discomfort is temporary. While the regret of quitting often lingers far longer and weighs heavier on self-respect, temporary discomfort fades. Fading discomfort reveals growth. Growth strengthens capability. Capability builds confidence. Confidence stabilizes identity. Discipline protects long-term fulfillment. Structured routines make discipline easier, because predefined actions reduce the mental negotiation that often drains energy before effort even begins. Clear routines eliminate debate. Eliminated debate conserves willpower. Conserved willpower strengthens consistency. Consistency builds habit. Habit reinforces reliability. Reliability deepens personal power. Another critical insight is that small disciplined actions accumulate, meaning that even minimal effort on low-energy days preserves momentum and prevents complete disengagement from goals. Preserved momentum maintains connection. Connection sustains identity. Identity reinforces commitment. Commitment stabilizes perseverance. Perseverance protects long-term success. Discipline also reduces fear because consistent action builds familiarity with challenge, making difficulty feel manageable rather than overwhelming. Familiarity decreases anxiety. Reduced anxiety strengthens courage. Courage supports continued effort. Effort reinforces progress. Progress restores motivation naturally. Self-respect grows when discipline becomes habitual because knowing that you can rely on yourself strengthens confidence more deeply than external praise ever could. Self-reliance reinforces inner authority. Inner authority stabilizes decision-making. Stable decisions sustain direction. Direction strengthens resilience. Resilience supports perseverance. Ultimately, discipline over emotion transforms perseverance from a temporary surge of determination into a steady, dependable pattern of action that continues regardless of fluctuating feeling. This chapter reinforces that those who never give up are not those who always feel motivated, but those who act consistently even when motivation is absent, building strength, grit, and confidence through disciplined repetition. As discipline becomes stronger than emotion and action continues even when motivation fades, the final sustaining force behind perseverance emerges through vision and purpose, because enduring commitment requires a reason powerful enough to outweigh temporary discomfort. In this chapter, we explore how a clear vision strengthens grit, how purpose stabilizes determination, and why keeping the bigger picture in focus prevents small setbacks from ending meaningful journeys. Chapter 7. Vision and Purpose. Staying committed to the bigger picture. In this chapter we explore how vision anchors perseverance, why purpose strengthens mental endurance, and how keeping long-term meaning at the center of your effort protects motivation and reinforces the decision to never give up. Vision provides direction because it connects present effort to future fulfillment, transforming repetitive daily work into meaningful steps toward a larger outcome that justifies persistence during slow or difficult periods. Without vision, effort feels isolated. Isolated effort breeds doubt. Doubt weakens commitment. Weak commitment invites distraction. Clear vision restores focus. Restored focus strengthens discipline. Discipline sustains action. Action compounds progress. Progress reinforces belief. Belief strengthens perseverance. Purpose deepens commitment because when goals are rooted in values rather than comparison or external approval, setbacks feel like temporary delays rather than personal failures. Value-driven goals stabilize identity. Stable identity strengthens resolve. Resolve sustains effort. Effort reinforces growth. Growth validates persistence. Purpose transforms struggle into significance. Long-term thinking strengthens grit. Because understanding that meaningful achievements require sustained effort reduces the temptation to abandon the journey when immediate results are absent. Patience stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion preserves clarity. Clarity improves decision-making. Improved decisions sustain direction. Direction reinforces consistency. Consistency compounds achievement. Vision also protects confidence during criticism. Because when you are deeply connected to why you are pursuing a goal, external doubt loses its power to derail your focus or diminish your belief. Internal conviction strengthens resilience. Resilience stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion supports calm action. Calm action sustains progress. Progress reinforces confidence. Confidence strengthens grit. Another essential aspect of vision is clarity, because vague ambition fails to inspire long-term endurance, while specific, meaningful imagery of future success strengthens emotional connection and reinforces motivation. Specific vision sharpens focus. Focus strengthens effort. Effort compounds growth. Growth validates dedication. Dedication deepens perseverance. Revisiting purpose during moments of discouragement renews commitment because reflection reconnects you with the reasons that originally sparked determination. Restoring perspective when fatigue distorts thinking. Perspective reduces overwhelm. Reduced overwhelm strengthens clarity. Clarity supports disciplined action. Disciplined action rebuilds momentum. Momentum renews energy. Vision also encourages sacrifice because understanding what is at stake strengthens willingness to endure temporary discomfort for long-term fulfillment and personal pride. Meaningful sacrifice reinforces character. Character strengthens resilience. Resilience sustains persistence. Persistence builds legacy. Legacy reinforces purpose. Ultimately, vision and purpose transform perseverance from blind stubbornness into intentional commitment, ensuring that grit is guided by clarity rather than emotion. This chapter reinforces that those who never give up do so not because the journey is easy, but because their vision is strong enough to carry them through the difficulty with stead, resolve and unwavering focus. With mental strength trained, grit strengthened, failure reframed, motivation renewed, discipline solidified, and vision clarified, the final step in the journey of never giving up lies in integration, where perseverance becomes not a reaction to hardship but a defining characteristic of identity. In this final chapter, we explore how to live as someone who embodies resilience daily and commits to growth regardless of circumstance. Chapter 8. The Identity of a Fighter Living with Unbreakable Determination. In this chapter, we explore how perseverance becomes part of identity, why self-concept shapes long-term endurance, and how embodying resilience daily transforms grit and motivation into a lasting way of life rather than a temporary response to difficulty. Perseverance becomes sustainable when it evolves from a temporary decision into a defining identity, because when you see yourself as someone who does not quit, actions naturally align with that belief even when circumstances challenge your resolve. Identity shapes behavior. Behavior reinforces belief. Reinforced belief strengthens confidence. Confidence stabilizes commitment. Commitment sustains action. Action compounds progress. Progress validates identity. Identity deepens resilience. Living as someone who never gives up requires daily reinforcement because habits and choices either strengthen or weaken self-concept over time, gradually shaping whether determination becomes instinctive or inconsistent. Daily discipline strengthens reliability. Reliability reinforces self-trust. Self-trust stabilizes confidence. Confidence sustains grit. Grit protects long-term vision. Resilience becomes habitual when setbacks are expected rather than feared, because anticipation reduces shock and prepares the mind to respond with calm persistence instead of panic or withdrawal. Preparation strengthens composure. Composure stabilizes clarity. Clarity improves strategy. Strategy accelerates recovery. Recovery reinforces belief. Another dimension of this identity is self-respect because honoring commitments consistently builds pride that fuels continued effort even when external recognition is absent. Pride strengthens confidence. Confidence reinforces determination. Determination sustains momentum. Momentum compounds achievement. Achievement reinforces identity. Community also reinforces identity because surrounding yourself with individuals who value perseverance strengthens accountability and normalizes persistence during difficulty. Shared resilience strengthens morale. Strong morale sustains effort. Effort maintains growth. Growth reinforces belief. Belief strengthens collective determination. Reflection sustains this identity because regularly reviewing challenges strengthens appreciation for growth and reinforces confidence in your capacity to endure future trials. Recognized progress builds gratitude. Gratitude strengthens perspective. Perspective stabilizes emotion. Stable emotion supports continued action. Ultimately, embodying perseverance means aligning thoughts, habits, and choices with the belief that quitting is not an option, allowing mental strength, grit, and motivation to operate consistently rather than sporadically. This final chapter reinforces that the decision to never give up becomes powerful when it shapes identity. Because when resilience defines who you are, persistence becomes natural and success becomes a matter of time rather than luck. As this audiobook comes to an end, it becomes clear that never giving up is not a dramatic declaration made once in a moment of emotion, but a disciplined identity built quietly through mental strength, grit, resilience, purpose, and consistent action over time. Throughout these 8 chapters, you have explored why people quit and how to interrupt that cycle, how to train your mind for endurance, how grit sustains long-term effort, how failure can be transformed into fuel, how motivation can be rebuilt during difficult seasons, how discipline carries you when emotion fades, how vision strengthens commitment, and how perseverance ultimately becomes part of who you are. When these principles work together, quitting no longer feels like a reasonable option, because your identity, habits, and perspective are aligned with growth rather than retreat. If this audiobook strengthened your resolve, renewed your determination, or reminded you why your goals are worth fighting for, we invite you to subscribe to free more audiobooks like this audiobook and share it with someone who needs encouragement to keep going. Because the right words at the right time can reignite courage and help someone take the next step forward. We also encourage you to leave a comment and share which chapter or lesson resonated with you most, as your engagement helps this channel continue creating powerful audiobooks that inspire mental strength, grit, and lasting motivation. Thank you for listening to Frema Audiobooks, and remember that success is rarely about who never struggles, but about who refuses to quit, continues to learn, and keeps moving forward one determined step at a time.